condition is this depletion test. My position is that the depletion test does not, it's kind of circular logic to have 2 out of 3 conditions for going to phase 4. There's the condition on the ORW, there's the condition on the PMW, there's the condition on the, for the depletion. Automatically on the other 2, which is kind of like just wait for the well to quit flowing.
Please explain the third option in this diagram. If you're going to explain them all, please explain
The depletion test?
As option C, if you were explaining to everybody, please, there are some conditions to that. If everybody gets the whole picture, I'd ask you to please explain all of that.
Can you tell us what you're talking about?
Tell me what you're
Sure.
referring to.
You just went through A and B of their submittal, correct?
Yeah.
And C was the,
Oh, it was the depletion test, much like what you've described.
right, it didn't have any other information along with the depletion test, such as a radius, the radius, voting of the community.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. The definition was that, or Texas Brine took the position that they would not do the depletion test on any well that was closer than 400 feet away from an occupied residence. Your residence, my residence, Dennis's residence, okay? And that would have the effect of basically virtually all of the wells that are in the vicinity. The only well that would be excluded is well number 53, which is about 300 feet across the bayou and is visible from your house. Right?
Not 300 feet.
Well, it's no further than that, okay? That well would be excluded, but all of the rest of them would be candidates for the depletion test.
No, that's not according to the map they produced.
Okay, they said 400
The map they
feet.
produced eliminated all of these.
Well, but when they said the 400 feet condition, the only well that was within 400 feet is 53. Now, if you agree to, what I would propose that we do is we eliminate these 3 wells on the east side of the community, and we eliminate these 5 wells on the west side of the community, plus the 5 wells that are down the middle of the community. But the point is, if you were going to do the depletion test and you failed the depletion test, then you cycle back to the ORW depletion and the PMW asymptotic approach requirement. So you basically cycle back to the 2 basic requirements around the ORW and the PMW. And I maintain that that should be sufficient for the community. And the only question is, what constitutes the community? I think clearly the ones on Sportsman's Drive are in the community. I believe the ones that are relatively nearby, I don't think we should be overly scientific about it. I think the ones which are close should be included. I think the first level of the first tier of wells that are close to the community should be included. We shouldn't be overly scientific about it. That would add 3 wells on the east and would add 5 wells on the west side. And if we would do that, and if we would accept the requirement that we just let the ORWs go until they quit flowing, and we look for the requirement of the PMWs indicating that there is broader depreciation of the gas, I believe that that ought to be sufficient. And the reason that this is so important to the people that live here is that there's scientific data that suggests that the area west of the dome is subsiding at the rate of 1/4 to 1/2 inch a year. That's before the sinkhole showed up. In 20 years, that means anywhere from 5 to 10 inches. The Blue Ribbon Commission, and you know that I'm a member of the Blue Ribbon Commission. I didn't do the study. I don't have any special scientific knowledge, but but they publish their results. They are in the public domain, so I'm not saying anything that hasn't already been published. Has said that the sinkhole has the potential over the next 4 or 5 years to give us another 4 inches of subsidence. If I had 4 inches of subsidence to the baseline predicted subsidence, then I get somewhere between 9 and 14 inches of subsidence in the next 20 years. Now, I have no idea whether that's going to materialize or not, but that's what the scientists tell us could happen. My house has a bulkhead, and every other year or so, when we have a high water event, I get water that comes up to about 11 inches to the top of the bulkhead. If I get subsidence of 9 to 14 inches, that says that in the future, without doing anything else that jeopardizes my property, I may eventually get to the point where the water is coming up and getting gradually into my yard at the end of that period. Am I against further subsidence of my property or doing anything that might risk subsidence of my property? You bet I am. But that's the reason. And until Texas Brine can prove, until DNR can prove, or somebody else can prove that that won't happen, I see no reason. Your test is not the threat, but the implication is after you do the test that we're going to go to long-term D. What you deny it, but why? But what else are we going to do? If we're not going to do that, we're going to just let the ORWs continue to flow till they quit flowing.
Well, Bob,
And that's what we're doing in the base case.
okay, so they do the test, and it shows that they can pull more gas in. What does that tell you, number one, besides that dewatering would pull more gas in? What does fundamentally that tell you that they're able to pull more gas? What does that say still in the ground? Gas, right?
Well, but
Not only that, it's also test to see if the well is clogged or not. And if the well's clogged, you're not going to get any gas, you're not going to get any pressure in the gauge. You do a communication test. If you draw the water down quickly, that means that it's not in communication, that there's a problem. You need to clean it out that there's gas that may be present.
So you're comfortable that we're going to do, it sounds to me like you're trying to get me to agree to a test which may lead, I know good and well, may lead to long-term dewatering of the well near my property. But you're telling me, oh no, we're really not going to do that.
I'm telling you it's
And
not.
you were expecting me to believe that.
You got your mind already made up. It sounds like that you know what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, this test.
So are you ready to tell me that you're not going to operate continuous dewatering?
That test will not automatically say we're going to operate this well in continuous dewatering. That's correct.
What I'm saying is I want, because I'm concerned about subsidence, there's no gas in anybody's house. It's been 28 months.
Okay.
We are protected by the aquifer, we're protected by the overburden, by the aquitard, if you will. We are protected by the gas meters that give us an alert if gas is moving into our house. We are protected by the ORWs, which are depleting the gas that will flow to the ORWs. We are protected by the PMWs, which indicate the gas is coming down more broadly. That's 4 levels of protection. So you want to give me another level of protection, which is going to add to subsidence, which is liable to become critical.
Mr. Deaton, we recognize that everybody has their own tolerance for risk. From the state's perspective, the amount of gas still believed to be under this community is beyond our tolerance for risk for the public. Now then, that having said, the assumption that dewatering, long-term dewatering has to follow this test is not necessarily obviously the case. That might mean possibly the existing ORWs could be reworked in some fashion. More ORWs could be installed so that you get a fresh set of perforations.
All right,
because
that's a very
options.
good point that you brought up about more ORWs. Do you remember the last time in March when Dr. Heacock spoke to us over in the community center in Napoleonville? That was on March the 30th, if memory serves me right. Dr. Heacock told us that there were two ways to get all the gas out of the aquifer. One was with continuous dewatering. The other was with more ORWs spaced more closely together. He also said that he didn't care which one was done. He said there were two options, and he did not have a preference. He pointed out that there was a risk of subsidence in wherever this long-term dewatering was done. I maintain it does not make sense to pursue that option over the other option to address that last bit of gas.
So, Bob, you're suggesting that the emphasis for direction to Texas Brine is them install additional ORWs in the Sportsman's Drive community?
Well, actually, I put together my suggestion. Would you like to see it?
So that, I just want to make sure, because I meet with them quite often. So if the push is to have
Well,
more
I
ORWs, because the last time the ORW was put in, we had the outcry from.
Not from me.
And
You got that outcry from people who are relocating out of Sportsman's Drive. You did not get that feedback from any of the
But what about
people
backyard, as far as I'm concerned? I
who are living on, who are going to live on Sportsman's Drive long term.
But that, I just want to make sure we all agree in that discussion. If that's the case.
Would you like, you've had time to talk about your plan, do you want to look at my plan? I made copies of it to pass out at the meeting.
What, can I ask this, what is the projected, at the rate we're going right now, time span to get the gas left out? Can you give any?
There's no way to know that unless they start doing more investigation of what's the gas layer and being able to compare it to what the previous data showed.
Initially, we were hearing 8 to 10 years, then 4 to 5 years, and then.
It would take more investigation to give an answer to that.
Well, and see, that's the answer. Every time we ask this, that's the answer we get. I remember at the crawfish boil, I asked the same question, and y'all said y'all needed more data. That was the answer I got.
And